Welcome back, everyone, to Enter the Apex, the podcast all about Apex Legends. I'm Garrett Weinzerl, joined once again by Kyle Ferguson as we return after taking a week off because I was dying of the plague.
How dare you? Nothing is quite as easy as framing up a shot in a real-time game while ill.
I imagine it would be easier to breathe in Caustic's fumes than whatever the hell was currently happening, what was happening in my sinuses last week.
Hey, like signs. You were immune, though, so you survived.
Oh, there you go. Okay. I like it. So you're saying if I was that stopped up and I was in an actual game of Apex Legends and was walking through caustic fumes, I would be unaffected.
Well, I think the kid, he passed out or he was clearly affected somehow, and you wouldn't be running. You'd be out of breath, not feeling so good. Most of the game would suck, but that particular death by, hey, now buffed, 4 damage? All right. You would take one from.
Well, I look forward to the next hero whose passive ability is just that they have really bad allergies and can pass through caustic fumes.
Perfect. Asthma.
They call him asthmatic.
I like it. The theming, bring it on. In fact, we've got a big old balance patch we're going to be talking about today, and it's brought on the big boys. I've been seeing more Caustic. I've seen so much Gibraltar. Holy crud. It's like people discovered he had an ult or something. The skies are raining.
Yeah. It turns out, though, we probably shouldn't be playing the big boys. Turns out they're bugged, but we'll talk about that in a second. What I find most interesting, Kyle, so today's episode will be mostly 2 big parts. And then if we have time, we're going to take, obviously, some questions as we normally do. But there's going to be the balance patch, and then it's going to be the kind of the topic, the hot topic around Apex Legends right now is that the game has just lost its momentum.
Sure.
I kind of want to just lead in a little bit early saying that we took a week off and our episode essentially looks no different this week than had we done it last week.
Right. I think it was early afternoon that this patch hit. So, luckily we didn't record one. I guess actually it was Tuesday. So it would have been an even less bulky show. Now we have this balance.
Oh, I guess that's fair. Yeah, the patch did come in after we would have recorded, so that would have changed it. But last week's episode probably would have just focused on the conversation around Apex losing its momentum, and so I think there's some credence to that. We'll talk about that more later because we should get into patch 1.1.1 because you've already talked about the thick boys. And so Caustic and Gibraltar, they added what they're calling the fortified passive perk. They said in the developer comments from Respawn, they brought up about, hey, yes, in the past we talked about that Pathfinder, Gibraltar, and Caustic have a disproportionately lower win rate than the other legends because of their hitbox size. They first tried adjusting the hitboxes, and according to them, it was successful for Pathfinder, but not for Gibraltar or Caustic. So Gibraltar and Caustic are getting or have received a passive damage reduction. They now take 10% less damage just for being these tank legends. So that said, this is currently bugged, Kyle.
Yeah, you were telling me about this.
Yes, it didn't work. So the negated 10% damage. So say you have shields up. You got your shields up. Doesn't matter how many shields. You take some damage. That 10% reduced damage does happen to the shield, but that 10% damage that was reduced goes straight through the shields to your HP at the moment.
Which I guess wouldn't be an insane amount of damage, but still, we like to top off with a little syringe action here and there, and that could be the end of a fight early.
Yes. So it is not working as intended. It would appear that Respawn is aware of this bug because JFresh commented in a thread on the Apex Legends subreddit that was discussing this bug, saying, quote, "I don't have an ETA, but we're aware and working on a fix internally that we're testing." And this was, I believe, sorry, I should have put how many days ago this went up. This comment was from 3 days ago from JFresh.
So that is very interesting news. It does not affect my queue because we all believe the patch to be 100% truth. And that's a really interesting thing that I can't find any information on. When I team up with anybody right now, any skill level, I am seeing the golden borders, animated, billion kills, tons of damage, distance traveled Pathfinder, people with things on the board and lots of play, career awards. But when I queue up solo right now, I am fighting people in my level 30, 4 kills on Lifeline. And that particular group, whatever nub queue they've invented that I can't find any information on, you think they'd make a big deal about it. Now matchmaking queues are in. Are they? I don't know. But it's happening to me and it feels great. And it is nothing but Gibraltar's nonstop raining hell. And it is, well, frankly, it's a lot of fun.
So do you think it is that you're getting in some secret like nub queue, or do you think it's just that this change has drastically increased the popularity of our larger legends?
Why also then when I load in are the previous winners, having 1 kill, 2 kills compared to whenever I team up with somebody? Like this is not, it's fact. It's not anecdotal. I just can't find any facts to back up what I'm saying. And we've been talking with people in the Discord and they're experiencing the exact same thing. There is a brief moment where it says matchmaking now while loading up and then goes into the ready and, loads you up and you pick your legends and all that sort of thing. So there appears to be something in there. And by the way, I love it, of course, because, it's a mixed bag. New people, they leave when they go down. I got second place 3 times last night, solo. I kid you not. I had a lot of fun. I was fully equipped. Lifeline drops just for me. Picked up my friends I was geared to heck and back. I was never going to win that final fight. I got in a 1v1 duel with another Lifeline who had only a longbow and I had a peacekeeper. And to show my level of skill, that duel lasted a while. But at the same time, much like MOBAs or any sort of, multiplayer game, when someone else is low skill, I'm leading the target. I'm like, oh, this is where I think they're going to be. Oh, they don't go that way. You think they're running a straight line. You think they're going to go for the cover there. So you pre-aim for the head. No, they turn, they go wherever they stop for 5 seconds and look at the skybox. It's an incredible experience right now, man.
All right. Okay. So I've had sort of this experience, but just off and on and in groups and out of groups. Like I'm just seeing more MVPs from the previous game that don't have god tier stats. But I haven't noticed a pattern to it. Just sometimes that's the case. When like 3 weeks ago, it felt like every single game that the actual legend from the previous game just was like, in the thousands of kills. Yeah. So I think just overall, I think some players are back. I know some of my more casual shooter friends are dipping their toe back in as a result of the 1.1.1 patch. But I don't know if anything really is happening. I think you may have just hit a streak of games that, Also, I'm just realizing we're wearing the same t-shirt today, and no one cares. So
nice.
On. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, there were some other changes to Caustic and Gibraltar that I do want to mention that I think probably are playing an even larger role in players wanting to actually select these 2 legends. But the bug just had to be addressed because the fortified perk, that's a big thing. It's something that Respawn in the past said that, well, we don't want to do this. I've come around to it, frankly. If a hero like Lifeline can just straight up use healing items significantly faster than any other legend in the game as a passive perk, why can't our tanks just passively take a little less damage? I think that's okay.
I really like the idea that they don't suffer knockback. I think that's a really cool feature that I would rather have. But then again, this isn't working, so I don't have that perspective. And as we were about to mention, the Caustic buff of taking gas damage per tick from 1 to 4, or the ultimate throw damage being increased, hasn't made me love him more. I still enjoy him. I might declare him my main, except for the fact that in my games, I was getting so late in them, I just wanted to be Lifeline. So I'm right now kind of in the Lifeline main territory. And as you say, once you learn how fast you can pop those shields over and over again, boy, it just feels nice, and you get used to it, and before you know it, you're selecting her every time.
Yeah, there's a Lifeline is a character I started playing a lot very early because of how much you can help your team. I have since come back to Lifeline because of how delightfully selfish you can be. Like the faster healing perk is so strong. But back to Caustic. You mentioned the gas damage tick being increased from 1 to 4, the ultimate throw distance being increased, and then Gibraltar also got 25 more health added to his gun shield. It was at 50, it's now at 75. That's a 50% increase on the health of his shield. It's a huge difference. And I personally have noticed the gas damage tick going up. I've died probably 3 times to gas that I previously would not have died to.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. It's very noticeable. I mean, when the damage tick is 1, going up to 4 is a huge change.
Yeah. Well, and we needed damage on that because it wasn't a reveal if you weren't already looking in the area of the target. And in fact, I've sort of developed a strategy of aiming those canisters rather high on the throw arc and using them like grenades, then shooting them myself, since the counterplay is developed.
Oh, look at you. Aren't you a fancy player?
I mean, that's like the Canyon strategy. Mostly why I love him is market and going in there with melee and an ability that's already useful in the opening moments.
Yeah. If you're going for those I hesitate to say hot drop, but exciting drop in a closed area. Yeah, Gibraltar Caustic's very good for that.
The tight corridors.
Yeah. I haven't really noticed. I haven't really felt the effects of the ultimate throw distance. I mean, clearly it's an upgrade to be sure, but I think the gas damage tick going up is a much larger improvement to Caustic.
Yeah, which now that's gone up and has other effects as well, suddenly I am so down on thermal grenades. Are they the little red ones?
Yeah.
What
or thermite? I think they're thermite grenades.
Thermite, yeah.
Yeah, what purpose do they serve?
Yeah.
Zone control. You can't walk here. You can't stand here.
But then they'll just go somewhere else, right? That's the whole point of changing your position constantly.
Well, yeah, but have you ever had a fight with anybody behind a rock? Well, guess what? They can't be behind that rock anymore, dude.
My arc grenade respect is skyrocketing, and as it went, my respect for little erasers is going way down.
Erasers. Yeah, I mean, I certainly prefer the arc star. But thermite grenades, they still have their place. They have they're a lasting threat, whereas the traditional frag grenade is just an instant explosion and then it's back. It's a safe zone again. You throw down a thermite grenade, that zone is now forfeit for multiple seconds, and sometimes that's all you need to make a previously safe piece of cover now just a death zone, and flush a target out. It's also great just when you're. When you're doing what we do all the time and huddle up in houses. It's a great way to flush people out of just homes.
I need to start selecting my grenade. I think that's my next task. I'm down to 500. I love 500. I've got big sweeping arm movements. Really helped getting in those noob queues recently, whatever the heck's going on to me. I'm feeling good about all that. I think next up is hitting, G? You hold down G and you get a radio menu and get to choose which one you desire.
Yeah, I do the same thing with your healing items as well. Always have usually a shield item selected, and I always either have thermite or arc star if I have one selected. Frag is always like my last go-to, because I feel it has the least amount of an effect on a fight. The only time when I really like a frag, this is like the only time I really like a frag is in market if someone is rezzing their buddies in those weird little alcoves on the bottom floor where there's no escape. That's the only time I like a frag grenade.
I really like the bounce, the physics of the frag grenade.
They're just great in a panic situation. Obviously, if you're running away, it's a great thing to just throw down and hope you get somebody. I mean, they're far from useless, but it's right now my least favorite grenade in the game. So, anyways, moving on from Caustic and Gibraltar, quite a few weapons got balanced last week. Overall, they're just trying to make sniping better. So they're lowering the leg shot damage reduction at range rather significantly on the Scout, the Triple Take, and the Longbow DMR. It was previously a 25% damage reduction if you got a leg shot. It is now only a 10% damage reduction. And they also reduced base weapon sway by about 33% and base sway speed by 25%. I've always liked the Scout. I'm now actually trying the Longbow a little bit. I really like these changes.
And it's shown that the community has grabbed on to the sniping strategies. I rather like them because it makes areas like Cascades and those bigger open areas where there's the hills on the sides just more interesting. I mean, granted, again, like all my opinions are warped by being in the noob queue because people will take shots they're not going to hit. But just being down in there while there's 3 teams fighting in the actual area and one person on each hill, making these long range trail shots just makes for a really interesting play style. I've also seen the complaints, though, that is, it was already enough trouble getting my team not to be cool snipers while I ran in lone wolf style. I'd really like people to stop sniping and join up, as the community voice.
I mean, I can completely understand that because I am also kind of that person, but at the same time, you have to understand Respawn, right? Like, these guns are in the game. They want them to be used. This is a shooter. Yeah. There should be sniping. It should be a usable strategy when you're gearing. And, I mean, again, I'm such a big fan of the Scout. I've been a fan for a long time. I mean, would I rather have a 301? Yes. But I'm not... It's not the end of the world if I end up with a Scout. It's kind of like my niche gun. That if everyone I play with, they tend to pass it over, and I'm like, yeah, I'll take the Scout, whatever. Especially when guns are kind of scarce. But I want to use that longbow. Like, DMRs, designated marksman rifles, are some of my favorite guns in most shooters that I play, and I've just avoided the longbow like a pox since Apex Legends has come out. And the changes they made have helped quite a bit. And then they even went in and made additional changes to the DMR. They increased the fire rate to, I think, just about the sweet spot. I feel like it could go like 0.1 or 2 a little bit further to where I just feel like it should fire, but this is damn close. It feels really dialed in. They also increased the magazine size. You can now have 6 rounds instead of 5 for a base mag, and then the common mag extender went from 6 to 8, rare 8 to 10, and epic 10 to 12, which combined with that new fire rate feels really good.
Yeah. I think this is a really strong time for the longbow to get a buff like this because there were so many people longbow curious, really wanting to get in on that thing, particularly after watching streams. I have not been interested. To me, it still all hinges on the training mode lacking attachments. Until I can get that curve down, I would rather knock you 10 at distance with some R something or other so that person is scared out of their perch for a little bit while I move in.
Yeah, my brain goes to how far do you go with the longbow before it is the best gun in the game?
Sure.
And that's something where I think, as much as I go my own personal taste, I feel like the fire rate could be just 1 tick faster. But if it is, I don't know what the fire rate is of the Scout off the top of my head. But if the longbow ever gets into Scout fire rate territory, it's terrifying. I mean, it's 110 headshot without the Skull Piercer mod. That's scary.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, really, the only thing that would make me a longbow main right now would be a bayonet.
We have an email on melee attacks if we have time today. Or melee weapons. Yeah, but I'm starting to come around on the longbow. It's at the top of my need to practice with list at the moment. The Havoc got some changes. This is another one. This is one of my niche guns. I love me the Havoc. Like, if it's a game where we're scraping by with whatever we can find, I am more than happy to rock a Havoc. because it is such an accurate gun. But they increased the magazine size. The base magazine size has gone from 25 to 32. And then as if the weirdest I like to get in this game couldn't be improved upon, it has. The charge beam got buffed. They reduced the cost per shot from 5 to 4. They increased the close range damage from 55 to 60. They increased the range damage from 45 to 50. And then they also increased the damage fall off. Close range damage fall off has been increased rather substantially, and the range damage fall off has also been increased. But overall, I like these changes, especially as one of those weirdos that uses the charge mod as a finisher.
Yeah, it's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. This is what I want to use the Havoc for. Otherwise, the devotion is plentiful. And I would rather have that if we're doing turbocharge business.
I've really come around on the devotion in the recent weeks. But I also had a weird stint where I was finding turbochargers a lot.
Yeah, well, it feels like they mess with us a little from week to week, experimenting with different ideas.
Yeah, again, I think it's luck. I think you're catching a wave in certain places. I don't think they're actually moving things up and down, but we'll see. But I really like these Havoc changes. And then the Wingman. They came for the Wingman again. They finally came after its magazine size. They reduced it. The base mag is down to 4 rounds. No longer a 6-shooter, Kyle.
All right, that's fine.
Yep. And then obviously all of the magazine's attachments have been addressed as well. The common is down to 6 rounds. The rare is down to 8 rounds. And the epic is down to 10 rounds from 12.
I'm A-okay with all these changes for the Wingman. I think it is a fantastic, as you said, for the Havoc kind of finisher or something to have that you're going to switch to real quick to unload that last bit of health in a firefight. I mean, I think one of the greatest disadvantages of the Wingman is it's just so trackable in terms of its noise that it produces. Every time someone fires a Wingman, you alert the area as to exactly what you're firing, where you're firing at.
Yeah. I mean, the Kraber is the same way. You hear that thing and you're just like, oh God.
Over the hills. Let's go.
Yeah. I mean, I want you to be punished with the Wingman if you miss, and the magazine size kind of made it a very minimal punishment.
Yeah.
So the more you have to reload, the less likely you are to kill someone with a Wingman, and that's exactly what reducing the magazine size is going to force you to do. So you're going to need to really get good with this gun if you're going to want to consistently get kills, unless you obviously have a big mag. So, however, though, Kyle, they came from my favorite gun.
Yeah, Spitfire.
They came for the Spitfire. They reduced its base damage 20 to 18, and just this morning, I totally lost a fight that I previously would have won.
Oh, well, magazine attachment reduced. The Spitfire is in such a weird place. One, it's anecdotally exceedingly rare for me to see one.
Yeah. Again, I feel like I catch waves at times, but I can also be the opposite. I can catch a drought wave where I just 6 games in a row never see one.
Yeah, and it's also not the offender of the bullet hose hackery that you see from time to time. Mostly those are your R guns, your light ammos that ended up being, immediately unloading you. You open the wrong door. That's a devotion to the face. I feel like a Spitfire is like, oh, well done. Yeah, you got me with a ham sandwich. It's not too fancy, but there's some cheese and mayonnaise on there. It was fine. Well done.
I consider it the gentleman's automatic rifle. Well,
I think that's a good assessment.
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, the mag size is also down, 45 down to 40. I think this is fine. I think the damage is fine. All of the changes here on the Spitfire, I think, are perfectly called for. It was a very strong gun. I think it's still a strong gun. And also, if this makes the powers over at Respawn at least consider upping the drop rate of the Spitfire even a little bit, then it makes me happy.
All right.
But yeah, I'm okay with it. It's fine. It's not that hard to find mags for Spitfires. It's much harder to find the Spitfire.
They also went in and did a little bit of a gold weapon attachments upgrade. Gold Havoc now has a turbocharger, a hollow sight.
Yeah, the 1-2 variable. Same for the
Yeah.
Golden R301, got a 1-2 variable as well. The big one here is the Gold Wingman. The sight on the Gold Wingman has been a point of contention for everyone I know that likes the Wingman that I play this game with. It now has a digital threat, which
That's pretty good.
it's amazing. I mean, that's what you want. That or just the like white red dot sight is the favorite for Wingmen. But a digital threat, that's fantastic.
Unless you're Bloodhound. And then you go, oh, I wasted my pick. I tell you, that Q is useless.
There's other mods that you also get with the Gold Wingman. It's not just the sight.
I know. I've been getting a lot of them, though. But they're particularly the types of guns. You find
Also,
a digital threat, it's not for the type of gun that you want it for, so everyone passes, so you're the guy with the shotgun and the digital threat sometimes.
Also, Kyle, how many ultimate accelerants do you carry on your Bloodhound at all times? Because it's only a wasted pick if your ultimate is currently ready to go.
I'm down on Bloodhound, man. I think it's cute with the running the Bangalore and all that, but I have lost so many fights popping that Q thinking I'm going to reveal something and just going blind instead.
I mean, it really depends for me. I like Bloodhound a lot, kind of the same way what you were talking about with Caustic earlier in the show. Are we going for early game tight corridor fights? Well,
yeah.
For me, I find that the reason I lose close quarters fights in Apex Legends is because I don't know where the enemy is. And Bloodhound's just normal Q. I don't even need the ultimate. Just a normal Q gets me around that particular issue.
Just wish it would attach to them. I know that'd be really powerful, but
yeah,
sometimes they ain't standing where they were when that thing hit them. And yeah, I'm aiming at the wrong thing.
Well, that's where experience comes in.
Yeah.
The more
not tricking yourself.
I'm not telling you you get good. I'm just saying the more times you're in that location having those fights, there's only so many options as far as where they're going to move.
Totally.
And also where to put yourself to give yourself the most chance to use cover to your to your advantage, so on and so forth. But that's when I like Bloodhound. Bloodhound is not like a main of mine, but it's probably the legend I most commonly switch to when on a losing streak.
Interesting.
If I'm having a bad go of it, I just think to myself, I just need more information, and that's what Bloodhound gives me.
I do it with Bangalores. Whenever I see him, and we already got that other something with it, the lifeline, maybe even a Wraith, because we're going to be avoiding some fights here and there due to her trade, letting us know that she's under watch. We don't take as much little knocks to health.
I like that.
I think this is, we talked about heroes, guns. Guns are all the same for all the champions. The champions themselves are not so drastically different that you can't trade them out. No one's going to be like, oh, I can't play X. You took my character, and rage at you. The biggest change of all has been this jump ship speed business. It is booking 50% faster now, and the strategy's changed quite a bit too because of it.
Oh, the ship speed?
Yeah, that thing is going.
Yeah, they increased the speed by 50%. They said felt that the ship was moving too slow, and they cite player behavior here. They said after watching player behavior, they think this is too slow, and I think they're totally right, and I think it's brought into even further clarity by a Redditor, Destroy Yesterday, who commented saying, with the change in the speed of the dropship, you are better off just waiting until you're directly over the landing zone to drop instead of dropping 900 to 1100 meters out before the LZ. So you just, because of how fast the ship moves, you just wait till you're where you need to be and just drop straight down.
I love it. And also this has changed to give it a huge amount of spread to everybody, because nobody's chomping at the bit to get out of the slow moving ship, and there's less immediate drop pylons. They almost address their own clip issue of getting stuck on each other by changing the movement speed of their own jump ship. Not an excuse for them, though. I know people still, want to get rid of that getting stuck on each other in the air.
They did get rid of it. I have barely gotten hung up at all since this patch. But
That's great.
it's not mentioned. I like looked high and low, so it doesn't appear it's been changed. But I think you're absolutely right. Because of this change, I think the jumps are just more spread out, or spread out at all, for the most part.
And with that movement, you're hanging out in the ship a little longer. The very first close-in feels a little sooner. The close-in after that, because you're booking it, because you're all spread out, is more interesting. More fights seem to be happening in these big open areas rather than the pile-on Skulltown business. We're therefore having more people make it later into the game. Like, this is it's had such a reverberation. This simple change has really increased my enjoyment of the overall game. And the whole reason why, when my teammates left, I stuck it out. Also because it was kind of fun, right? You know, there's this. I got into the second place. I'm solo. I know there's 3 people in that tiny little square. And who doesn't love seeing one lifeline run in there? Dropping a drop on top of your circle, which takes up most of the circle. So you're on a time limit, you know? I mean, these are all artificial. I'm enjoying myself. Then you kill the lifeline and you go, oh, I won? Maybe I even stole some of the glory.
Yeah, I of all the changes in this, I mean, so many guns were adjusted. Caustic and Gibraltar, even though they're currently bugged, got some meaningful changes. I think this is the biggest change. I think this is the best change in this patch, is just the jump ship speed increase. It has had such a game-wide effect, as you just kind of detailed.
Yeah, and the only thing that's missing for people, it seems, is a Mirage update. People really down on the guy, and they want some sort of buff to him. Win rate, though, says he's fine, which makes sense because these champions aren't so wildly different from each other.
Yeah, this is where I look at that and I go, yes, it's still a shooter. Shooting is the most important thing.
Right.
And he doesn't have a massive hitbox, so if you can shoot, you're probably doing just fine on Mirage.
Yeah, I could see it in your high tier plays. There's no reason to even consider him.
Right. Well, at a certain point, yeah, you just go with someone with an even smaller hitbox like a Wraith. But I would not expect to see disproportionately low win rates on Mirage.
Well, and what's interesting about Wraith is she still has the Portal Heroic, which is so much fun. And I got to use it this past week in a very solo oriented kind of way, where I put it several feet apart. In this case, it was on top of a building below the building, and just juggled between the two back and forth. That wasn't for anybody but myself. But that ability to use it in that unique way, outside of let's all, sneak into the building together, was tons of fun. And also gives you that skill ceiling beyond what something like her Q can give, which frankly, I think her Q is kind of Mirage-y. I get a lot of Wraith kills because you can track the Q. They're running around. You see the little trail. You know exactly where they're going to be when it's over. Sometimes they're trying to get towards you, and you get to frame them up the whole way while they're sort of in space vision problem land and pop out a little confused.
Yeah. I use it more for the momentary invulnerability, and I try to only use it if I know exactly where I'm trying to go to for cover, so that when I pop out of it, I won't instantly be taking bullets. But you don't always have that freedom, right?
What I'm sort of getting at here is that I think Mirage's Bamboozle is fine. I think if we can address that heroic to have some multiple angles to it, that's where I'd love to see. Plus, you have to get rid of the whole bamboozling line, the personality, and that'd just be a shame.
Yeah. So overall, I think we agree this is a good patch, with the obvious caveats of Caustic and Gibraltar's bug needs to be addressed soon.
Right.
That's bad, and so it's really hard to. I mean, we don't know. We don't know if this is going to be successful or not because it's not currently working. The
right. The other
perk.
Huge part of this is that it's slow. It's too little, or even you could say maybe too much at one time. They're being expansion oriented. They're being even, Blizzard kind of style. They want to put out things when it's ready, and they want to do it in these piles. But people aren't accustomed to that. And that's where we get into this conversation about Apex Legends losing momentum over the previous months. People want these things every week. You can come out and just do a longbow upgrade and release a single longbow skin with it and make that just an event of even the smallest caliber. But instead, they've been going through, and even on the Reddit, they've been going through gauging expectations, saying we make less frequent, better tested, higher impact balance changes in order to minimize the impact on your time spent mastering the game. Oh no, StarCraft land. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of us. You just got to run with it.
Right. It's of two minds, because I mean there was a really good comment by Respawn dev Scripticus that kind of goes into, we don't want to overpromise.
Right.
I'll quote Scripticus here. It says, "I'll give you my somewhat cynical take on how this stuff tends to go. If I were to say, yes, feature X will come to the game someday, it would likely get picked up by blogs and gaming news sites, posted as, quote, Respawn says X is coming to Apex, end quote. And depending on how those articles are written, they're going to set expectations incorrectly for a lot of people. Eventually, people would talk about how Respawn announced X ages ago, saying that it's taking too long, or speculation about why it has been delayed. A lot of this can be helped by careful wordsmithing, but even that can be taken out of context or misquoted, so on and so forth. So this is why we don't hear about in-development changes to the game. I think this conversation is, there's two major chunks that I would divide it into. One is that I'm okay with balance changes being batched together like we've been seeing, and I would like them to be tested and whatnot. Like, that's all well and good. I think Respawn's messaging, like what you just said, we make less frequent, better tested, higher impact. Could you have made a more boring vanilla quote? Like, it's such a boring way to talk about your video game. And also, like, I also don't think it's necessary. Like, I guess I don't feel strongly either way. But I would say that there are a lot at the moment, because of the state of the game and how few features it actually has. There's not a lot of ground to stand on against people that want more frequent updates, because there isn't a competitive mode. There is no ladder. There is no MMR. There is nothing. There is no reason to having ladder anxiety in this game short of I don't like dying. So because of that, what defense do they really have against players clamoring for more frequent updates?
Well, and they're also up against Fortnite, which, as has been reported over the last several months, is digesting the innovations that Apex Legends came up with and has already implemented them and advanced its own game based on the influences of others. And of course, every game comes out, Magic the Gathering comes up with a new mechanic. We might see that in Hearthstone sometime soon. There's no reason to not share ideas. The ability of Fortnite to move so fast is what has engaged the public for so long, and people are looking for a more serious, maybe first-person alternative. But this content flow from Fortnite is taking them back now.
And that's what I'm talking about. There's this kind of division, is that I think with the adjustments to the game that we currently have, balance-wise, yeah, take the time you need, Respawn, do what you need to do. But where I agree with all this conversation about Apex losing momentum, is with adding any features to the game. This game doesn't exist in a vacuum. It has entered a very crowded space, and they're not adding enough to the game fast enough. So that's the divide. For me, it's your balance updates, whatever. Make that at the speed that you need. What I think the game needs is more features. It needs another map. It needs another game mode. It needs a ladder. It needs a rank system, something of that nature. Or just release the things that were teased in the Battle Pass trailer at a faster rate. We haven't gotten the other gun. We haven't gotten the other legend. We haven't even really had teases of those features since, which I guess... Actually, I don't guess. It straight up goes back to the developer comment saying when we say X is coming and it doesn't come fast enough, that becomes the focus.
Sure, we've fallen into the trap ourselves.
Right. But I guess what I'm saying is that I agree that they are just failing on the cadence portion of this game. They are not the only game in this space. As a matter of fact, they are the last to enter this space. And I would have assumed that they knew that coming in, and I would have thought, and I did assume that was part of their strategy coming in, that they would have had a certain amount of releases kind of in the hopper, but clearly they do not.
It'll be fascinating to see what the future of MMOs looks like after Fortnite. It's such a incremental system that we built over years with expansions, and then Fortnite, this juggernaut, as someone who played Paragon and enjoyed it, comes along, digests the entire company, and turns into this amazing flow of content. And particularly when I became aware of Fortnite, it was during the Thanos business. And I'm just like, what the? And they want to redo the map, so they start an apocalypse of asteroids a little bit, you know? Like, this stuff is pretty cool. Like, moving around a rock once or twice can be a little exciting, particularly when you memorize the map. Blowing up a ray or crashing, you know, let's say instead of that big pit, you know, you take off the dish and it's now sitting in the middle there, and there's this bowl you can fight in now. Like, just those little mix-ups of discovery have become a part of what we expect of a live service game.
Yes. And so far, all we have had in that regard is Octane's jump pads showed up for a week.
Yeah.
That was cool. But why was that it? Why was that the end of adjusting the map?
I'm curious. I mean, this is my first real battle royale. I'm also curious about what's happening with player unknown esports, because that is on the rise, dominating a lot of my Twitch feeds, my Twitter talk. All the esports personalities I know are talking about player unknown. Apparently, they had a great tournament. Somebody got a grenade kill. It killed 4 people. It was team based or something. Shroud right now is quoted saying he's leaving Apex Legends to go play Player Unknown because the recent content updates have been so good.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of the ebb and flow of. I don't want to say esports because we don't really have one for Apex, and PUBG is kind of finally just finding its footing. But like competitive games or games that are streamed. I mean, this is just how it's going to go. I mean, you type in Apex Legends right now and you try and find headlines. They're all around what top streamers are saying about the game. And it's all in this conversation of the game losing momentum. But it's not like this is some new thing that's only affecting this particular game. And we're just having the same thing over in Hearthstone right now. A lot of prominent Hearthstone players are leaving for games like Auto Chess.
Already? You guys just had a big old expansion.
Yeah. And for certain players, I'll use Hafu as an example. Hafu, long time, very wildly popular Hearthstone player, just announced that she's quitting because she's just not interested in the game anymore. That just printing cards isn't doing it for her anymore. And I've been saying that for years about Hearthstone, and everyone's like, you're crazy. But I think we're at the same point with Apex. It's just that the game isn't that old. So it's kind of crazy that we're there already, but I don't think it is crazy because, again, I come back to this game is not in a vacuum. This is Battle Royale players already have an expectation set from other Battle Royales, and you need to meet that expectation to retain the players that you amazingly grabbed very quickly in massive numbers.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see things move from Overwatch to Fortnite. And that's the approach. And as we have this conversation over future weeks, because if they're keeping the same pace of things, we'll be having this conversation more. I don't think this is a sad conversation to have. I find it fascinating. And it does make me curious to see what these other companies are doing that maybe Respawn can integrate. I'm also curious that they're doing a new Star Wars game. Respawn, making that single player one.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far removed from this, right?
Yeah, but shouldn't they be the Apex Legend team and digesting other things to make their machine function at maximum capacity?
Well, this is also EA, Kyle.
I know, but yeah. And
I mean, do you want to get into like how far away from Apex do you want to get? Because we could have a huge discussion about all the dirty laundry that has been aired with what EA did to BioWare.
Yeah, I'm perfectly happy to have that conversation because Fortnite is in a unique position that the Epic Store didn't exist, and that this game mode, a game that took what was it, 2 years or something in full development to make as this defense builder in 2 months turns into a battle royale, and the company is able to say, oh, cancel everything, let's do this, and canceling Paragon. Oh no, I can wave my sad little flag all I want, but I like that. Yeah, big deal. It wasn't that popular. It was going to come out to rather lackluster fanfare.
This is just the gaming landscape. And so I find these conversations wildly fascinating because it seems to me right now, as someone who is a lifelong Blizzard fanboy, like there is no pure studio anymore. For me, it used to be Blizzard. I'm like, yes, they do what the players want, and it's a great place to work. And oh, look, they just laid off a ton of people and have had quite a bit of growing pains, it would appear, from the outside looking in.
Yeah. I had Bethesda and BioWare were in that list for quite a while. And Bethesda was more of just you kept making games I wasn't entirely infatuated with.
Yeah, for me, Bethesda began and ended with Skyrim for me, and they're just continuing to milk that. And then they had the Fallout 76 MacGuffin.
the bag.
Yeah, the game that I'm a smug jerk about, because I was sitting here like, that game looks bad, and then it comes out and I'm like, oh, it is bad. Cool.
Yeah.
So it didn't really affect me, but that's no solace to anyone who's a big Fallout fan.
Right. Well, and we let ourselves get, hyped about Anthem against our better judgment.
Yes.
We let it into our hearts.
I did. I was very ready to pull the trigger on a show about that, and I'm glad I didn't.
No, it would have been embarrassing.
Honestly, it would have been fun, but it would have been something that you and I don't really like doing, which is a show about crapping on a game.
Right. That's no fun at all.
It's fun to crap on a game. Some might say that we're crapping on Apex right now, but I don't think we are. It's still, for me, and this is we find ourselves, I think, with Apex Legends in a similar situation to where we found ourselves with a game like Heroes of the Storm, only with still significantly more players than Heroes of the Storm ever had. Sitting here going, well, this is the battle royale we want to play. Much like over on Heroes of the Storm, it was like, well, this is the MOBA I want to play. I don't care if Dota 2 is more popular. I don't care if League of Legends is more popular. I do like PUBG. I will say that. My issue with PUBG is that I can't get my friends to play it. My friends don't want to play PUBG. I have 2 friends that play PUBG, and I play Apex Legends with them. And I don't like Fortnite, personally. If you like it, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and debate you. I personally can't stand the art style, and I don't like the way it shoots. I think it has the worst shooting of all the battle royales out on the market right now. And building does nothing for me. I think it's super unique. I get why people, especially younger than me, really like the building in Fortnite, but it's not for me. Apex Legends for me, it's everything I want. It has like the shields from Halo, the time to kill from Halo. It has abilities from Overwatch. It has really good shooting. Really freaking satisfying shooting. So when I am on my computer at night and I think to myself, it's time to play a shooter, Apex Legends is still the shooter I really freaking want to play. That, however, doesn't stop me from wanting to have these conversations around the loss of momentum, because I do think that is where this game fails.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's just it's strange, and it's something that they're not talking about. I don't necessarily expect them to talk about it, but it's my biggest question to Respawn right now is, why didn't you plan to have a faster feature cycle? I guess is where I would like it, because I think their balance patches have been pretty damn solid. 1.1.1 is maybe not the best example because of the bugs with Caustic and Gibraltar, but I trust they will fix that, and will fix it soon. Sure, I'll eat my hat, I guess, if that fixes it out by the end of the week. But overall, I really like these changes they made with the guns, and I like all the changes they made in the past.
Now they just need to maneuver themselves in a situation where they can supply that expectation of what these games can be nowadays.
Yes, absolutely. So, engage your expectations better. That less frequent, better tested, higher impact balance changes. That is the most just boring, written by committee statement I could read.
I get it though. We're responsible as gamers. No one in the fruit roll-up factory comes out and on their Twitter and says, "I'm really excited about an upcoming flavor," and everybody loses their minds and builds up expectations as to what it's going to be.
It is our fault. We are to blame.
Yeah.
We are to blame. But anyways, should we take an email?
Let's do that.
Rad. OJ writes in and says, "Friends, a question and a comment for you. First, what do y'all think about melee weapons, picking up a knife or a box cutter or something that does slightly more damage than a punch, or maybe slightly less damage but swings faster? Might be something interesting to add later. Second, I don't have any issues with bumping into other teammates while dropping. You can't clip through players on the ground, so you shouldn't be able to do that in the air. Plus, it's fun to knock them off their path. Fun. Garrett, ask Kyle what fun is." OJ, you're a dick, and I completely disagree with you here. You're just... So, OJ, I'd like to talk about your melee weapons, but first I'd like to say you're just objectively wrong about this because it makes dropping straight up RNG. Anyway, love the show. Everyone should give an iTunes review right now. Maybe OJ should not give an iTunes review after I have called him a dick. But so other than OJ being objectively the wrongest person to ever write into this show about collision out of the dropship, I am totally on board with melee weapons. It's something I love so very, 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 very much in PUBG, and somehow completely non-existent in Apex Legends.
PUBG does have a third-person camera, correct?
You can opt out of it. There's a queue for first person only.
Oh, really?
Yes, we need to play PUBG.
Like you queue. You outside of the video game, you say, "I am first person only in this particular match."
Well, in the video game, before you hit the queue button, you can opt into first person only.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's weird. Huh.
Yeah, well,
is it toggleable inside the game?
Yes, if you queue in to allow third person, it's toggleable. You can go from third person into first person. You have a much wider field of view in third person. You can look behind you while you're running in third person. You can't do that in first.
Right. Huh.
So,
I mean, that was something that was always interesting about Smite or World of Warcraft PvP.
Gotcha. Also, driving vehicles in PUBG, which is a thing we don't have in Apex Legends, infinitely easier in third person than in first.
Sure.
Yeah.
They make you drive in first person, you do first person only?
Very difficult. Much
savage.
harder than third person driving. All of these things got to come into account with that.
I think they'd Halo it, right? Where you get in the vehicle, you zoom out, you get on the done turn.
Yeah, which you can do if you play third person, but a lot of people prefer first person. It's considered, like the real way to play.
Yeah. Huh. Fascinating.
Yeah. When I was learning PUBG, I played exclusively third person, except I would toggle in the first person when I would aim. But I played for months in third person mode, and then once I finally got like a real handle of the game, started playing with my friends who like to only play first person.
I think that's the right mix to do if you're going to have third person wall, is zoom in when you zoom in. I don't like Batman-O vision where he's taking up a fourth to half my screen because I'm trying to look at something in the distance.
Yeah, fair. I mean, that's its own thing. But Lance brings up a good point that I have long since forgotten, that the prevalence of hackers in third-person mode in PUBG was much higher than in first-person mode.
Why?
Well, if you're using an aimbot, it's easier to find things to aimbot at if you have a wider field of view.
Oh, what?
If someone comes up behind you while you're running across the sand dunes and you're looking behind you because you're in third person, you have a much higher chance of winning that engagement.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. Very interesting.
Yeah. Anyways,
all right.
Back to melee weapons. They're super fun in PUBG and add to the zaniness of hot dropping in that game. And, if you don't find a gun, it's like, well, but I found a pan. Bong, bong. Hope for the best. It's fun. I like it. I would love to see melee weapons in Apex Legends.
Now, I do think, going back to something like Halo 2, that they did it right. There was sort of a boost on the sword, I remember, that allowed you to close the distance.
Oh, yes. Yes. You also have to remember, though, like back then we were console only on Halo until later in Halo 2, but no one was freaking playing that. Someone listening, I'm sure you played it and had a good time. Cool. The vast majority of us were playing these games on console.
Right. I didn't even have a computer that could run it. I was still playing Roller Coaster Tycoons and StarCraft because the yellowing IBM wouldn't explode.
I also didn't have a computer that can run it, but I also didn't want to wait, I think, like 2 years. How long did it take from like Halo 2's console release for the Halo 2 PC version?
Now, I can't remember if the energy sword had a battery or not that ran out.
It did.
It did.
Its ammo was like an energy battery, and eventually it would just die.
Yeah, I like that feature too. And I wouldn't want to, miss attachments because melee weapons. So
I mean, it would depend, I think, on the damage, right? Like the energy sword in Halo was such high damage, I think you needed an ammo mechanic so that you couldn't just be a god and corner camp the entire game and win with the sword. Whereas in
corner camp,
well, you know what I mean, just like hide in the corner in a close quarters corner where someone comes around and you just kill them.
No, I remember exactly. Yeah, you would. I mean, we all have the maps memorized. You would hide in the high traffic areas, pop the guy, then back up again and hide in the exact same corner.
And hope to God that they weren't talking to their friends on Xbox Live and telling them exactly where you were, because they knew you weren't moving and you knew you weren't moving.
Mm-hmm.
But like a lot of the melee weapons in PUBG, like they will not win against a gun in most scenarios unless something wacky happens. But it's fine that they don't run out of ammo. This is a game that is mostly based around gunplay. So whatever. You can keep your unlimited ammo sickle slashes in PUBG.
Sure. And I think what OJ is suggesting here is also just a slot. That your melees will now do more damage than a normal melee. I'm saying because of the difficulty of having a late game melee fight and my desire to win with that style, that I would love to see something like a sword or even like a vibro axe that you could throw at range.
That'd be interesting, but that would be something I feel like would go in the grenade slot.
That's interesting. Yeah, I feel you.
Because you'd be kind of using the same thing. Honestly, throwing knives, I'm surprised haven't made it into the game, especially since it's part of the skin for Wraith. But
and Bloodhound's shown off their knife quite a bit in that.
Oh yeah, and that intro cinematic. Yeah. There's knives all over that thing, and we don't have a single knife in the game.
So here, I got it. Remove my disappointment of the thermite grenade by allowing me to have a flame dagger.
First of all, you shouldn't be disappointed the thermite grenade is good. But yes, I would be all for a flame dagger.
Yeah, it was it feels like the one I always get when I have nothing in the early drop, and I pull it out, and it starts going like I'm a badass, and I'm like, oh, geez, thanks. That thing, I got a pop button on the end, little flame jet, little carver. Put down your blast shield and do the thing. What am I thinking of? Welding. Welding.
Oh, I was thinking, just like butane. Like
or plasma or whatever you want to call it, because we're sort of in the future here in space. Let me melee with that thing.
All right.
Let's make it noise.
Yeah, I would like melee weapons, just period. Add them to the game, put a weird Apex Titanfall spin on it, and let's go.
And bayonets. That'd be awesome.
If you give me an additional attachment slot, because I'm not skipping out on a barrel mod in place so that I can maybe poke you with a knife later.
What if you had 2 longbows? And that's all you could find. And you could have one with the that's going too far. One with a barrel, one with a bayonet. One's your melee weapon. Close range, longbow.
Okay, sure. All right. Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode, Kyle. If you'd like to write in and be a part of the show, send your emails to amovetv@gmail.com or join the AMove Discord. Go to bit.ly/AMove Discord. We also take questions from there. You can just drop them right into the text channels in there. There's one for Enter the Apex. But Kyle, before we go, where can everybody find you when you're not talking about Apex Legends?
Oh, man, you can find me over at twitch.tv/Kyle Ferguson. Normally, you can find me over at youtube.com/Kyle Ferguson. Normally, but I will be out of town for the next week, so there will be a bit of a content drought while I tour the family.
Ah, okay. Well, you're going to be in my state, so I hope I'll be able to run into you, sir.
Absolutely.
Folks, I'm Garrett Art on Twitter, so go follow me there. All of these shows that I do, including this podcast right here, can be found at amove.tv. That's amove.tv, where you can find podcasts about Heroes of the Storm, Hearthstone, personal topics, which soon will be including spoiling the living crap out of the final season of Game of Thrones. Go subscribe to R2T2, wherever podcasts can be found. And also streaming on twitch.tv/amovetv. I streamed WoW last Friday, and it went really well, so I might be doing more of that. So,
awesome.
Turns out folks like hanging out, doing Q&A while I just level up tunes. But yeah, so go check it out, all that stuff, amove.tv. That's going to wrap it up for episode 10 of Enter the Apex. But we'll be back very soon. Until then, good luck and have fun, everybody.
Take care.